shoes. First thing, and we'll get one guy facing this way and one guy facing this way so we can see everybody. You're going to keep one foot completely flat, and I want you to lower yourself until you can just touch your palms to the ground. Make sure that foot stays flat, and then you come right back up. You stand all the way up in between. I want you to do 10 of them with your eyes open, and then I want you to do 5 of them with your eyes closed. Basketball, really any sport, is all about being able to control your body in space. We want to make sure that these guys have good balance and good strength without the external stability of shoes. And after they do 10 reps with their eyes open, where they're using all of their senses, we're going to remove one of their senses, the sense of sight, which we all rely on. And you'll see that it's a little bit more difficult when we take away sight. It makes their other senses go into hyperdrive, makes the exercise a little more difficult. Of course, if we were doing this real-time workout, anything we would do on one leg, we would do on the other. But my goal for the clinic purposes is to get in as many drills and concepts as I can, so we're not going to worry about doing the other leg. I want to go ahead and move to the next thing. I want you down in a lunge. Now, if you guys want to switch legs so one leg doesn't get tired, that's cool with the gang. I want you to get down in a lunge position, and when you lunge, you stay hip-width apart. You don't stay on the tightrope. I want your back knee 3 inches off the ground, your front knee above your heel, and just hold right here. And we're going to sweep that front foot forward, my man. That front foot needs to be flat. There you go. Even forward even more. There you go. You got long legs, and we'll just hold. There are 6 primary movements that basketball players need to be able to go through. And don't worry, I didn't forget about you guys. Players need to sprint. Players need to backpedal. Players need to defensive slide. Players need to pivot. Players need to jump and therefore land. And they need to lunge. We do lunges, 3 or 4 different variations of lunges. Don't lean on your legs. Stand up. And now just close your eyes, guys. Stay down, stay down. Just close your eyes. Don't change anything else. Close your eyes. You'll see that any basic exercise becomes infinitely more difficult when they have their eyes closed. But it's really going to add to the proprioception and working on their balance. Give me 10 more seconds, and then I'll explain to you guys why the lunge is so important. Looking good, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you can relax. If you can't conceptualize why a lunge is one of the 6 movements, I grab the ball, I swing through, and I'm getting ready to rip through and go to the basket, and they freeze the tape. I'm in a lunge position. It's not a standard forward perfect lunge. I'm leaning a little bit to my right. Most of my weight is on my right. My foot's pointed a little bit forward. But players are in lunge positions hundreds of times over the course of practices and games. So we have to make sure they're strong, have great balance from a lunge position. Next thing, basic line jumps, which everyone in the world has done, but when you're in your bare feet, it's a little bit different. And we'll go 1 foot at a time. I just want you to get 10 side-to-side jumps, then you'll face the line, get 10 front-to-back jumps, then disregard the line, and I want you to do what are called windshield wipers. I want you to try and rotate your foot 180 degrees. So just get 30 jumps on the leg of your choice. Go ahead, fellas. There's nothing magical about what you do in your bare feet. With the exception of excessively high jumping and really hard planning and cutting, everything your players do from a strength and conditioning standpoint, they should build up a tolerance to be able to do barefoot. But again, you have to be extremely conservative about that. Now, another reason that I'm here is simply just to share my beliefs. I would never in a million years tell you that my way is right or that my way is the only way, but I'm here simply to share what's worked well for me. I am not a doctor. I am not a physical therapist. You guys can go ahead and put your shoes on. I'm not a physical therapist and I'm not an athletic trainer, so I would never do anything to undermine one of those medical professionals. However, in my own professional strength and conditioning opinion, if a player has healthy ankles, they have never had an ankle issue, there is absolutely no reason that they should wear ankle braces or put on ankle tape. There's no reason that they need to add that external stability. Every time a player runs and jumps, they do what's called triple extension. They extended their ankles, they extended their knees, and they extended their hips. If any one of those 3 things isn't working properly, they're not running as fast or jumping as high as they're capable of. Along the same lines, every time a player lands from a jump or every time they land from running, you want that impact to dissipate evenly through their ankles, their knees, and their hips. If their ankles are locked up because they're weak and immobile or because they're in the confines of a brace or tape, then that ankle can't flex properly. If the ankle can't flex properly and the impact can't dissipate through the ankle, all of that impact goes to the next closest joint, which is the knee. So ankle braces, by locking the player's foot and an ankle into a rigid brace, which is basically the equivalent of a soft cast, you're going to put infinitely more pressure on the knee. If any of you have ever, hopefully no one's in here has broken their wrist, but if you have, if you haven't, I'm sure you know someone who has. If your wrist is in a cast, you take that cast off 10 to 12 weeks later. What's the difference between this forearm and this forearm? It's Monday morning, I won't worry about the active participation part. I'll tell you, this one is noticeably smaller and weaker. Why? Because you haven't been able to use it. Your body's real simple. You either use it or you lose it. Same is true with your brain, same is true with your heart. If you don't use something, you will lose it. Same thing with your ankles. I don't know about your players, but the kids at DeMatha play basketball 25 to 30 hours a week, most weeks of the year, and they've been doing that since they were 8 or 9 years old. So if you put that player in basically a soft cast for 25 to 30 hours a week, most weeks of the year, the ankle joint will become less mobile and the feet will become weaker. And we just relatively all agree that that's the most important joint on a basketball player. So why we would ever do anything willingly to make the most important joint weaker and less mobile just doesn't make any sense. Now again, if a player has sustained an injury and part of that rehab program, a medical professional tells them to wear an ankle brace or tape, by all means you got to do whatever they say. But generally speaking, I'm very anti-ankle brace and ankle tape. I need all you guys up. Everybody up. Everybody up. Let's line up on this sideline over here on the hop, fellas. Your warm-up is arguably the most important part of your strength and conditioning program. Your warm-up is something that you should all the way spread out, use all the landscape we got, gentlemen. Your warm-up you should do before anything your team does physically active. It doesn't matter if it's an off-season workout in April, a preseason practice, or you're getting ready to play for a state championship. You need to condition your team to go through a standard warm-up. It will prepare them physically, it will prepare them mentally. Now, where a lot of coaches, I find, they make the mistake of just telling their players to jog 3 laps around the court and then sit on their ass at midcourt and pretend to stretch. And trust me, that is all your players are doing is pretending to stretch. There's nothing mentally or physically engaging about doing that. So here's the thing. When you practice, when you play, when you work out, you require your players to go through the 6 movements that I just mentioned. When your players play, whether you realize it or not, you are telling them they have to sprint, they have to backpedal, they have to defensive slide, they have to pivot, they have to jump and land, and they have to lunge. So you have to make sure, excuse me, that your warm-up has the same purpose, that your warm-up has the purpose of preparing them for what you're going to ask them to do. Now that doesn't mean that every single warm-up has to include all 6 movements, but over the course of a week, you need to be making sure that these movements are intertwined. Keep spreading down, fellas. Now, another thing that a lot of coaches believe is, excuse me, 8 to 10 minutes. What can I accomplish in 8 to 10 minutes? And I will agree, if you look at it as a very isolated incident, it's probably hard to make a ton of progress in 8 to 10 minutes. But I don't look at it that way. I look at everything with what's called the brick-by-brick approach. And I know we don't have a brick wall in here, but everyone in here has seen a brick wall, and I want you to picture a brick wall. Every time I see a brick wall, I notice a couple things. One, every brick has been laid perfectly. There's no bricks sticking out, there's no bricks diagonal, there's not bricks missing. Every brick was laid perfectly. And that's how you get the end result of a sound, sturdy wall. Well, it's the same thing with athleticism, and it's the same thing with skill. Every single rep of every set, of every exercise, of every drill, of every practice, and every workout is another brick that players put on their game. And you have to make sure that every brick is laid perfectly. And warm-up is nothing more than another brick. So instead of just saying, it's just an 8 to 10 minutes, what can you do? That's not how I look at it. I look at it as, we get kids at DeMatha as 14-year-old freshmen. And they're going to be with us 4 to 5 days a week, most weeks of the year for 4 years. Now that's a lot of bricks. I'm certainly not a mathematician, but you start taking 8 to 10 minutes times 5 to 6 days a week times 40, 48 weeks a year times 4 years. That's a lot of time. You can make major changes in that time. And again, all we're doing is reinforcing the proper movement patterns for movement efficiency of what you need them to do when they practice and when they play. So I'm going to show you right now a fairly quick workout. I'll do my best to keep it in real time, but as you can see, I go off on tangents and I talk a little bit, so it might not be completely real time. But I'm going to show you how you can weave into the fabric of your program the basketball-specific movements that you'll need when your players play. You guys are going to get in a good athletic stance, and all you're going to do is you're going to jump forward, jump back, jump forward, jump back. I want you nice and light. We're creating a nice little rhythm with your feet. When you get rim to rim, you can just jog to the other side. Go! Nice job, gentlemen. Anything athletically, for the most part, basketball-wise, that you can do forward, you need to be able to do backward as well. So now we're going to face these folks again, and you guys are going to jump back, jump forward, jump back, jump forward. Ready, go. So we're just creating a little bit of rhythm. We're getting some multi-directional hops, and we'll get a back pedal when you get rim to rim back pedal. Basketball is a rhythm game. It's a rhythm game. At DeMatha, our goal is to establish ours, disrupt theirs. That's what rhythm's all about. Thanks very much, sir. Now we're going to face in this direction right here, fellas. We're going to jump left, jump right. Jump left, jump right. When you get rim to rim, just an easy defensive slide.